Think about that one person in your office that everyone looks up to, the rock star. They're the first one at their desk, they respond to Slack messages at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, and they never say no to a new project. To the company, this person is the perfect cog in the machine. But if we look at the actual math of their life, that good employee is likely the person losing the most money in the entire building. Welcome to Money Made Clear. I'm Ray, and for a long time, I lived under the delusion that hard work pays off and that loyalty is rewarded. But after years of looking at the data, I've realized that being a model employee is often an accounting fraud you're committing against yourself. We're not here today to tell you to be lazy or to quit your job. We're here to talk about the efficiency trap, a psychological and financial loophole that keeps high performers broke while their employers get rich. See, in the world of business, if a company buys a machine that works twice as fast, the company keeps 100% of that extra profit. But in the world of employment, if you become twice as efficient, you don't get a 100% raise. Usually, you just get the work of the person who's slower than you. Because you're reliable, you're rewarded with more responsibility, higher stress, and longer hours, all while your paycheck stays exactly the same. This is the fundamental lie of the modern workplace. We're sold this idea of meritocracy, but the system is actually designed to maximize the yield of every human resource. If you are a high-yield resource, the company is going to squeeze every drop of value out of you until there's nothing left. And the craziest part, we volunteer for it. We've been conditioned since grade school to crave the gold star. We want the praise, we want the exceeds expectations on our annual review, and we want to feel needed. But you can't pay your mortgage with a good job email. Let's do some quick, brutal math. Imagine you make $70,000 a year. On a standard 40-hour week, that's about $33 an hour. But because you're a good employee, you're actually putting in 50 hours, checking emails during dinner, staying late to get ahead, and thinking about work while you're in the shower. Suddenly, your real hourly wage has dropped to $26. You've effectively given yourself a 20% pay cut just to maintain a reputation. And it's not just the hours, it's the cognitive tax. When you give 110% to your employer, you're leaving 0% for your own side projects, your own investments, or your own physical health. You are selling your most productive years and your best brain cells to build someone else's equity. While you're working late to ensure the CEO gets their bonus, you're too exhausted to look at your own portfolio or start that business you've been dreaming about for 5 years. The system relies on you being too tired to realize you're being fleeced. It relies on the good employee identity becoming your entire personality. Because as long as you're chasing that next promotion or that 3% merit increase, you won't notice that the gap between your effort and your wealth is getting wider every single day. If you feel like you're running faster than ever but your bank account is standing still, it's because you're playing a game where the rules were written to make sure you never actually win. Now, the natural response to feeling underpaid is to chase a promotion. We think if I can just hit the next level, senior manager, director, vice president, then I'll finally be rich. But this is where the trap gets even more sophisticated. It's what I call the promotion paradox. Most people don't realize that as you climb the corporate ladder, your cost of goods sold, the cost of being you, actually skyrockets. Look at what happens when you get that $15,000 raise. First, the IRS takes a bigger bite because you've moved into a higher tax bracket. But then the lifestyle creep starts, and it's usually not because you're being greedy, it's because you're being squeezed. Now that you're a senior something, you feel the pressure to look the part. You upgrade the wardrobe, you trade in the reliable sedan for a luxury lease because you can't show up to a dinner client in a beat-up Toyota. You're spending money you haven't even made yet to maintain an image that helps you keep the job that's making you tired. But the biggest drain isn't the car or the clothes, it's the convenience tax. When you're a good employee taking on more responsibility, your most precious resource, time, becomes extinct. You're too exhausted to meal prep, so you spend $25 on Uber Eats for dinner. You're too busy to clean your house, so you hire a service. You're too stressed to brew coffee, so you buy the $7 latte. You are effectively paying other people to do the basic life tasks you no longer have the energy to do yourself. If you actually look at the math, you're often just trading your raise back into the economy in exchange for a few minutes of peace. And then there's the decompression spending. This is the dark side of being a high performer. When you spend 50 hours a week in high-stress meetings dealing with office politics and urgent deadlines, you don't spend your weekends building wealth. You spend your weekends trying to recover from the week. You buy the expensive bottle of wine to take the edge off. You book the $5,000 all-inclusive vacation not because you want to explore the world, but because you're desperate to escape your life for 7 days. This isn't living, it's recharging, so you can go back and be a good little battery for the company on Monday morning. The system loves this. The more you earn, the more you spend, and the more you spend, the more you need the job. It's a closed loop. They give you a raise and the market gives you a higher cost of living. You're processing more money through your bank account than ever before, but the gap, the actual profit you keep, remains paper thin. You're like a high-revenue company with 98% overhead. On paper, you look successful. In reality, you're one bad quarter away from a total collapse. This is why you see people making $200,000 a year who are just as stressed about money as people making $60,000. They've fallen for the good employee myth, the idea that their value is tied to their title and their output. They've forgotten that the goal of working isn't to see how much money you can move through your hands, it's to see how much you can keep. The real danger of being a good employee is that it makes you risk-averse. When you're highly valued by your company, you have more to lose. You become addicted to the steady paycheck and the ego boost of being the go-to person. You stop looking for outside opportunities because you're too busy being indispensable where you are. But remember, indispensable is just a word bosses use to keep you from realizing you're being underpaid for the amount of value you're actually creating. So, what's the move? If being a good employee is a math problem that doesn't add up, do you just walk into your boss's office and quit? For 99% of us, the answer is no. We have bills, we have families, and we live in a world that requires capital. The solution isn't to stop working, it's to stop being a revenue-only business and start being a high-margin business. Think about it this way. A company that makes $10 million but spends $9.9 million on expenses is a failing business. It's fragile. But a company that makes $1 million and only spends $200,000 is a powerhouse. Your life is no different. Your salary is your revenue, but your time, your health, your commute, and your stress relief spending are your expenses. If you want to get rich, you don't necessarily need more revenue, you need better margins. The first step is a personal audit. This weekend, sit down and calculate your real hourly wage. Take your net pay, the money that actually hits your bank account, and subtract every work-related cost. The gas, the dry cleaning, the extra therapy, the takeout you bought because you were too tired to cook. Then take that number and divide it by the actual hours you give to the job, including the commute and the shadow work of checking emails at night. When you see that number, whether it's $15 an hour or $40 an hour, write it on a sticky note and put it on your laptop. This is your new filter for the world. The next time you see a $200 gadget, don't ask if it's worth $200. Ask if it's worth 10 hours of sitting in that fluorescent-lit office dealing with Susan from accounting. Usually, the answer is a hard no. This friction is what stops the bleeding. Next, you have to embrace strategic efficiency. We've been taught that giving 110% is the goal. In reality, giving 110% is a recipe for bankruptcy. The sweet spot is usually around 80%. That's the level where you're still good, you're still getting your bonuses, and you're not the person they call on Sunday afternoon because they know you'll pick up. That extra 30% of energy you save isn't for being lazy, it's the capital you invest in your own business, your own education, or your own family. Stop treating your job as the source of your wealth. Treat it as a client. If you had a client that demanded 60 hours a week, made you stressed, and didn't pay for your travel, you'd eventually fire that client or negotiate a better contract. Start looking for efficiency raises. Can you negotiate working from home 2 days a week? That's a massive raise in time and fuel costs without the company spending a dime. Can you automate a report that used to take you 4 hours? Don't tell your boss you finished early. Use those 4 hours to build your own side hustle or research your next investment. The goal is to build a gap. the gap between what you earn and what it costs you to earn it. That gap is where your freedom lives. It's where you find the money to invest in the S&P 500 or buy a rental property. It's where you find the time to actually live your life instead of just recovering from it. The system is designed to keep you on the hamster wheel, chasing the next gold star while they pocket the profit of your hard work. But now you know the math. You aren't just an employee, you are a business owner, and your most valuable product is your life. Stop selling it at a discount. If this video made you look at your paycheck a little differently, do me a favor and share it with a friend who's currently working too hard for too little. And if you want more deep dives into the invisible equations that govern your money and your time, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching Money Made Clear, and I'll see you in the next one.